It started on a Friday afternoon, the kind where the sky looks heavy and the air feels thick, like it knows something you don't. I was at my best friend's house, like I had been so many times before. Her place had always felt like a second home. We grew up together, shared everything from school crushes to late-night secrets. Her family was close-knit, or at least, that's what I thought. Her dad had always been kind to me. Polite, charming, always checking in to see if I needed anything. But that day, something changed. Something I couldn't unsee, and something I wish I had the courage to walk away from before it was too late. I still remember the way her dad looked at me, too long, too intense. At first, I brushed it off. Maybe I was overthinking. Maybe I was just tired. But then, the comments started. Innocent at first. You've grown up so much. You look just like a model. I laughed them off, uncomfortable, hoping he didn't mean anything by it. But deep down, I knew. The compliments turned into lingering touches on my shoulder, long stares when he thought no one was watching. My best friend had no idea. She'd be in the kitchen, singing along to her favorite playlist, completely unaware of what was happening just a few feet away. I wanted to tell her. So many times I opened my mouth and stopped myself. What if I was wrong? What if I ruined her family over a gut feeling? So I stayed quiet, hoping he'd stop. But he didn't. In fact, he got bolder. One night, everything boiled over. Her mom was out of town, and we were having a sleepover, just like old times. We watched movies in the living room, giggled about some guy from school, and eventually dozed off under a pile of blankets. I woke up hours later to the sound of the hallway floor creaking. I thought it was my friend going to the bathroom, until I saw him standing there. What happened next felt like it lasted forever, but it couldn't have been more than a few minutes. He walked over and sat too close. He whispered things I can't forget, things I didn't want to hear. I begged him quietly, because I didn't want to wake her. I begged him to stop. I told him this was wrong. That I was her best friend. That she was just in the other room. But he didn't care. His expression didn't change. He didn't seem scared or ashamed. Just determined. And then, something happened that turned my world upside down. My best friend walked in. But instead of shock or outrage, her face told a completely different story, like she had seen this all before. Like this wasn't the first time. What she said next left me speechless, and it was only the beginning of everything unraveling. She didn't scream. She didn't cry. She didn't even look surprised. My best friend just stood there, in the dim light from the kitchen hallway, staring at us like she'd seen a ghost, and not for the first time. Her eyes didn't meet mine at first. She looked straight at her dad. There was something heavy in the air, something I didn't understand yet, and I could feel my heart pounding in my chest like it was trying to warn me. She finally turned her gaze to me, and I'll never forget what she said. He does this. I thought he stopped. Her voice was barely above a whisper, but those words hit me harder than anything else that night. My brain struggled to process it. What did she mean? How long had this been going on? And why hadn't she told me? I sat frozen on the couch while her dad stood up slowly, brushing his hands off like nothing happened. No apology. No panic. Just calm, casual, like he didn't just cross every line a parent should never even go near. She told him to leave the room, and shockingly, he did, just like that. No argument, no fight. Like he already knew this moment would come. When he was gone, she sat down next to me, but she couldn't look me in the eye. That silence between us was louder than anything either of us could have said. She started talking, voice shaky, like she'd rehearsed this conversation in her head for years. She told me she used to wake up feeling watched. That she never told her mom because she didn't think she'd believe her. That she even tried to warn some of her old friends, but they always brushed it off. Said she was being paranoid. Dramatic. Now it was happening again, right in front of her, and it was happening to me. I felt sick. Not just because of what almost happened, but because I hadn't seen it sooner. All the little moments that felt off suddenly made sense. The times he accidentally walked in on us changing, or when he offered to drive us places alone. She'd always try to avoid those rides, always made up some excuse. I thought she was just being picky. I never realized she was protecting us. I didn't know what to do next. I didn't know who to tell or if anyone would even believe us. But I knew one thing for sure, nothing about that house, that family, or our friendship was ever going to be the same again. We didn't sleep the rest of that night. Every creak of the floor made us jump. Every shadow on the wall felt like it might be him coming back. My best friend stayed close, curled up at the edge of the couch, arms wrapped around her knees like she was trying to hold herself together. I kept glancing at the hallway, half expecting to see him standing there again, pretending like nothing was wrong. In the morning, everything looked normal on the outside. Her mom came back, cheerful and completely unaware. He made breakfast, flipping pancakes like he hadn't shattered something between us. He smiled. He asked if we slept okay. I couldn't even answer. I just stared at my plate, my stomach twisting. It was like being trapped in a play where everyone else had their lines, but I'd lost the script. My best friend barely spoke all morning. But when we went back to her room, she finally told me more. She said he had a pattern, getting close to her friends, acting overly involved, too helpful. She told me about a girl who used to come over all the time in middle school, and then suddenly stopped. No one ever said why. Another friend from soccer who told her something once, but then took it back a week later. I could see the guilt in her eyes, the weight she'd been carrying for years. I started questioning everything I thought I knew about their family. Her mom seemed sweet, loving. But how could she not see it? Was she in denial? Or was she just trying to keep the peace, pretending not to notice the things that didn't add up? I didn't know whether to be angry or heartbroken for her. And then there was me, stuck between loyalty to my best friend and this terrifying sense that something really bad was going to happen if we didn't do something. I wanted to talk to someone, anyone. A teacher, a counselor, maybe even my mom. But my friend made me promise to wait. She said she needed time. That if we rushed it, her dad would just twist the story like he always did. She was scared no one would believe us. And I understood that fear, because even I wasn't sure how to explain what had happened without it sounding unbelievable. The worst part? We still had to go back to school on Monday and act like everything was fine. Like her dad wasn't hiding behind that friendly smile. Like our friendship wasn't now held together by a secret so heavy, we could barely breathe under it. The following week felt like walking through a nightmare with my eyes open. At school, everything looked normal on the surface. We sat through classes, joked with our classmates, even laughed once or twice, but it was all fake. Every moment outside those walls, the truth haunted us. I'd catch my best friend zoning out during lunch, her hands trembling slightly, like her body remembered what her mind was trying so hard to forget. I started having trouble sleeping too. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw his face in the dark, heard his voice in that low, cold tone that still made my stomach twist. She was growing more paranoid by the day, jumping every time her phone buzzed. She told me her dad had started acting even more controlling at home, asking where she was, who she was with, and when she'd be back down to the exact minute. He started checking her phone when she wasn't looking. She tried to brush it off, saying he was just being paranoid, but I could tell it scared her. It scared me too. Then one afternoon, things took a turn we didn't see coming. I was walking home when I noticed a car parked across the street from my house. I recognized it right away, her dad's truck. My stomach dropped. He wasn't supposed to know where I lived. I didn't go inside. I turned around and walked to a nearby coffee shop instead, hands shaking as I called my best friend. She didn't answer the first time. When she finally picked up, she was out of breath. She said he'd been acting weird again, asking too many questions about me, about where I lived, what time I usually got home. And then she said something I didn't expect. She found a note under her pillow. It wasn't signed, but it was clear who it was from. It said things like, "You know what happens to girls who talk too much. And family is everything. Don't ruin that." We sat in silence on the phone for a long time after that. It didn't feel like a warning. It felt like a threat. A very real one. That was the moment we realized this wasn't just about uncomfortable stares or crossed boundaries anymore. This was dangerous. And if we didn't do something soon, it might be too late. But the scariest part? We still had no idea just how deep this went, or how far he'd go to keep his secret buried. After that night, nothing felt safe anymore, not home, not school, not even walking down the street. I started noticing things that I'd never seen before. A car parked near the school gate that didn't seem to belong to any parent. A man in sunglasses who sat in the same corner of the library cafe 3 days in a row without ever ordering anything. Maybe I was just paranoid, maybe I was imagining things, or maybe, just maybe, he was watching us. We decided to write everything down. Every detail. Every strange moment. We even printed out messages, took photos of the note, and saved screenshots of anything we thought might help. My best friend hid everything inside a notebook that looked like one of her school journals. She kept it with her at all times. It felt like our only protection, proof, in case things got worse. We started planning how to talk to someone, how to leave the house if we needed to, who we could trust. But nothing could have prepared us for what happened next. It was the middle of the week when her mom showed up at my house unexpectedly. She looked worried, but not the kind of worry that comes from outside danger. It was the kind you get when you already know the truth but are scared to say it out loud. She asked if we could talk privately. My heart was racing. I thought maybe my friend had told her everything. But instead, she said something I never saw coming. "I think he's doing it again," she whispered, looking down at her hands. "I don't have proof, but I know the signs. I've seen it before." I didn't understand what she meant at first. Again? My mind was spinning. She looked me in the eye then, her voice shaking. "There was someone before. Years ago. Someone close." But I was too scared to say anything. I thought I could protect my daughter by keeping the family together. That's when it hit me. She'd known. Maybe not everything, but enough. She had lived with this fear long before I ever stepped into their home. And now it was happening all over again. But just as she was about to say more, her phone buzzed. She looked at it and froze. "He's home early," she said quickly, her whole body tensing. Without another word, she grabbed her bag and left. I told my best friend everything that night. She was quiet for a long time, then reached for the notebook where we kept our notes. It was gone. She tore through her backpack, every drawer, every shelf in her room. Nothing. That journal, the one we'd carefully filled with dates, names, details, it had vanished. Her face went pale. She looked at me, eyes wide with panic. "He knows," she whispered. And that's when the door creaked open, slow and steady, like someone had been standing there the whole time. Listening. Watching. Waiting. It felt like the air was sucked out of the room. The slow creak of the door was enough to freeze us both in place. My best friend's hand reached for mine instinctively, and we didn't breathe. For a long second, there was just silence. Then, her mom's voice cut through the tension. "It's me," she said softly. We both let out a shaky breath as she stepped inside, holding the notebook in her hands. Her face was pale, but there was something different in her eyes, like she had finally made a decision. She sat down, placed the notebook on the bed between us, and looked at her daughter like she was seeing her fully for the first time in years. "I found it under his bed," she said. I don't know how long he's had it, but it's clear now. I can't pretend anymore. She told us she had gone back home after leaving my place and waited for him to fall asleep. That's when she searched his room and found the journal, tucked behind an old shoebox. She hadn't read everything, but what she did see was enough. Names, messages, dates, our story right there in ink. That night, her mom made a choice that would change everything. She drove us to a safe place, her sister's house in another town, and made some phone calls. Serious ones. It was the first time I saw her take control, like something inside her had finally woken up. The next morning, we met with someone from Child Protective Services. It wasn't easy telling the story. We both cried. Her mom did too. But for once, we weren't alone. In the days that followed, everything moved fast. Her dad was removed from the home while the investigation began. The school got involved, counselors reached out, and it turned out we weren't the only ones who had noticed strange behavior from him. A few other people stepped forward, quietly, carefully, but it was enough to show this hadn't just been in our heads. For the first time in a long time, my best friend and I could breathe. The fear was still there, but it wasn't suffocating anymore. She started sleeping through the night again. Her mom began therapy. I finally told my own parents everything too, and their support was more than I expected. Slowly, life began to feel normal again. Looking back, I still think about all the small signs I missed. All the ways silence gave him power. But I've learned that speaking up, even when your voice shakes, is stronger than fear. And that sometimes, the people who smile the most hide the darkest truths. This story wasn't just about betrayal or broken trust. It was about survival. About learning to trust your instincts. About protecting the people you love, even when it's hard. And most of all, it was about finding our voice when it mattered the most. 18.